Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be for my US Studies class, so if that is the class that you're in, you're going to want to watch this video. If you aren't in that class, you still want to watch, you're always welcome to. Okay, so today's video is the topic is England's American colonies, and we're going to focus on the southern colonies today. So, England establishes colonies in North America. Unclaimed by the Spanish and French, the Atlantic coast of North America attracted English attempts at colonization during the 1580s. England's first attempts to establish a colony in North America failed, but in 1607 they succeeded in founding Jamestown, which became part of the colony of Virginia. By 1732, 4 more southern colonies had been established: Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Now, look at those dates. You're going to notice that this is many years after Columbus's voyage. Columbus left Europe in 1492, and this is, 200 years later. So there was not a big rush to settle in the New World, at least made by England. The Spanish, they quickly got over here, the French did as well. But England did not really rush out to settle North America right after they learned of its existence. Here's a map that shows the sort of area that we're talking about and where these colonies were. This area right here, as you see on the map, or near where it says Roanoke and this strip, this is called the Outer Banks. And that is the first place that you will come across. If you're sailing in, you're going to come across that first before you get to the mainland. I've been to the Outer Banks, and it is a beautiful area. But this is the area we're talking about. English colonies. The first promoters of English colonies were wealthy gentlemen from southwestern England. They included Sir Walter Raleigh, a special favorite of Queen Elizabeth I. English patriots and devout Protestants, these men wanted to advance their fortunes and increase the power of England. They promised that an American colony would solve some of England's problems: a growing population and increased poverty due to a stagnant economy. The promoters proposed shipping poor people across the Atlantic to work in a new colony. By mining for gold and silver and by raising plantation crops, these workers would generate new wealth for England. So one of the major problems that England was facing at this time was high poverty and high unemployment. Partially due to the Columbian Exchange, we have a vast, quick growth in population in England. And now, if you have all these people, well, there has to be housing, there has to be jobs, there has to be food, and England was seeing a lot of shortages. So while it's kind of a cruel thing to think about, one of their solutions was, let's just take all these poor people and ship them across the ocean and have them work on a colony. It sounds pretty cruel, pretty crass, but it is the solution that they end up going for. England establishes colonies in North America. That's a picture from Roanoke, which we will talk about here in just a moment. After obtaining a charter or certificate of permission from the Crown, the group formed a joint stock company. This was a business venture founded and run by a group of investors who were to share in the company's profits and losses. During the 1580s, Raleigh twice tried to colonize Roanoke, a small island on the North Carolina coast, then considered a part of Virginia. But English ships struggled to land supplies, and the sandy and fertile soil produced scanty crops. Raleigh's first colonists returned home in despair. The second group of settlers mysteriously vanished. The English tried again under the new leadership of the Virginia Company, a corporation of great merchants based in London. In 1607, the colonists proceeded to Chesapeake Bay, a superior location north of Roanoke. The Chesapeake offered fertile land along with many good harbors and navigable waterways like the James River, where the colonists founded the settlement of Jamestown. Although divided into 30 American Indian groups, the region's 24,000 Indians shared an Algonquin language. They were also united by the rule of an unusually powerful chief named Powhatan. In his 60s, Powhatan impressed the English colonists with his dignity, keen mind, and powerful build. There, Powhatan. I believe anybody from this area, that should sound pretty familiar to you. The Virginia Company sends more colonists. Rather than confront the colonists at risk of heavy casualties, Powhatan hoped to contain them and use them against his own enemies, the American Indians of the interior. He especially wanted to trade with the colonists for their metal weapons. The colonists, however, wanted Indian lands. They refused to recognize that the American Indians occupied, used, and had ancestral ties to these lands. Despite the many native villages and their large fields of maize, Captain John Smith described Virginia as overgrown with trees and weeds, being a plain wilderness as God first made it. The English insisted on improving that wilderness into profitable farmland. So even though the natives were already here, they had been here for many years, they had developed, they had villages and small settlements, this guy, Captain John Smith, he's going to report it as it's just overgrown with trees and weeds and a plain wilderness as God first made it. Meaning that there's nothing here. It's just wilderness. It's just forest as far as the eyes can see. But that is not the case. That is not the truth. Early challenges in Jamestown. The colonists founded a new settlement and named it Jamestown to honor King James I. The surrounding swamps defended the town from attack, but the swamps also bred mosquitoes that carried deadly diseases, especially malaria. The colonists also suffered from hunger, for they were often too weakened by disease to tend their crops. Between 1607 and 1622, the Virginia Company transported some 10,000 people to the colony, but only 20% of them were still alive in 1622. That is a whole lot of death. You know, you send over 10,000 people, but then at the end you only have 200 still alive. That means 9,800 people died in this. Colony. That's a lot of graves to dig. Jamestown was built on a swampy island separated from the mainland by a small winding river. Most of the area was wetland that was unsuitable for farming. In the foreground, the James River flows past the triangular fort and settlement. So this was the original, what Jamestown is thought to have looked like. Now this is the James River here, and then there's another river back here. So you can see why this would be a very in-demand place because of all the fresh water. At war with American Indians. In 1609, war broke out between the Indians and the starving colonists. In 1613, the English captured Powhatan's favorite daughter, Pocahontas. As an English captive, Pocahontas converted to Christianity and married a colonist named John Rolfe. Weary with war, Powhatan reluctantly made peace. When Powhatan died in 1618, power passed to his brother, Opecuncono. Guys, I will not ask you how to pronounce or spell this on the test. So, Opecuncono. We're going to call him Opecuncono. I'm probably saying that completely wrong. But we will that's just what we're going to call him for now. Opecuncono, who hated the invaders from England. So Powhatan, he's fought with the colonists for 9 years, and he was already an old man whenever this started, and he's getting tired, and he's like, you know what? We'll make peace. We just want to have peace. We want to get back to our way of life. Fine. If these colonists want some of this land, they can have it. We'll just move elsewhere. I just want to live in peace. So even though he didn't like it, he wanted to end all the fighting. So he makes peace. Sadly, he passes away in 1618, and power passes to his brother, Opecuncono, who hated the invaders from England. The tobacco crop saves Jamestown. At first, the colony was not profitable. By 1616, the Virginia Company had spent more than 50,000 English pounds, an immense sum for that time. Yet all it had to show was an unprofitable settlement of 350 diseased, hungry, and unhappy colonists. The company saved the colony by allowing the colonists to own and work land as their private property. As farmer owners rather than company employees, the colonists worked harder to grow the corn, squash, and beans that ensured their survival. But to make a profit, they still needed a commercial crop to market in England. So they have this land, they have this colony, but it's not making any money. And that was the ultimate goal. You know, think back, why did the people come from England over to America? To make money. So they come over here and they've already invested 50,000 English pounds. That's a lot of money for that time. And there was no profit. The colony was failing. There's 350 diseased, hungry people. It's a miserable, miserable place to be. So the company decided to change the way that they were going to run things. Instead of seeing the colonists as employees, they were going to say, hey, you can have some of this land as your own if you work it. So these people were going to have a lot more incentive to try to make the land as profitable as possible, because now they get to own part of it. You know, part of it is theirs. So instead of it just being the company's land, so now they're going to work harder to try to make it profitable. And while they did increase their food output, they still didn't have a way to make money. They needed a commercial crop that they could take back to England and sell. So, led by John Rolfe, the colonists learned how to cultivate tobacco in 1616. West Indian tobacco had become extraordinarily popular for smoking in Europe. King James fought a losing battle when he denounced smoking as a custom loathsome to the eye, hateful to the nose, harmful to the brain, and dangerous to the lungs. Eventually, though, he learned to love the revenue that the crown reaped by taxing tobacco imports. So the king is saying, you know, this is a terrible thing to do. It's ugly, it smells disgusting, it's harmful to the health, but it was making him a whole lot of money. And now that we understand tobacco, he was getting people addicted to it. You know, they were developing an addiction to the nicotine in the product. So they could charge any amount of money they wanted to, because tobacco was only growing in America, so it had to come clear across the ocean to begin with. So they can charge a high price for it because it costs a lot of money to get back to Europe. Because tobacco plants needed a long, hot, and humid growing season, the crop thrived in Virginia but not in England. That difference gave the colonial farmers an advantage. Their tobacco production surged from 200,000 pounds in 1624 to more than 1.5 million pounds in 1640. So in only 16 years, it went from 200,000 pounds to 1.5 million pounds. That's a whole lot more tobacco. The Chesapeake region became the principal supplier of tobacco in Europe. The profits attracted more immigrants to Virginia. So people back in Europe, they're seeing, wow, these farmers over in America, they're growing this crop, they're selling it, they're making a whole lot of money. We should go over there and try to get a piece of that pie. So they're going to go over there and they're going to try to farm tobacco as well. Free land encourages settlement. Beginning in 1619, the Virginia Company offered free land. Under the headright system, anyone who paid for passage to Virginia or who paid for another person's passage received 50 acres of land. This enabled the wealthiest colonists to acquire large plantations. To work those plantations, landowners imported workers from England. The population of Virginia is beginning to grow. So, they are offering this free land to anybody that comes. If you come to America to work it, we'll give you this land for free. 50 acres to each person. That's a whole lot of land for one person. So, but this is only for people that could afford to pay for their own passage over. So, these people, they're coming over, they're probably not going to work it themselves. They're going to have people that they've employed to come work for them on their new land that they just got in this new country. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this one. If you have any questions about what we went over today, you can leave a comment, send me a message through Schoology or an email, or just talk to me the next time you see me. I hope everyone's having a great day, and I'll see you again real soon.